All right, it's Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk. We've got a gem in the capital city, and that is the Springfield Capital Airport, the Abraham Lincoln Capital Airport. And joining us to talk about the 75th anniversary of that facility is Mark Hanna. He's the executive director out there at the airport. Mark, thanks for taking time with us this morning.
Absolutely, Greg. Good morning.
So, obviously, a big celebration, 75 years, and you were just saying off the air, there might be some Springfield residents who remember when this thing was started. They may have been toddlers at the time,
Right.
But that's pretty remarkable.
It is. And that's 75 years, but we go back into the 1920s when the first airport was actually just a stone's throw away to the west off of Hazlitt Road, where Charles Lindbergh actually flew the mail route from St. Louis to Chicago with a stop in Springfield. Over the years, then the Southwest Airport and then the Springfield Municipal Airport on the south side. There's still remnants down there on the south side off of Chatham Road. And in 1945, on VE, in Victory in Europe Day, May, there was a group of people that came together to form a committee, and they started going after funds and created the Springfield Airport Authority in 1945 in June. And 2 years later, they had an airport. And to think that from 1945 to 1947, about a two and a half year construction season, they were actually to put together the beginnings of what we see today as Abraham Lincoln Capital Airport.
You know, it's pretty remarkable because you see these municipal airports all across the state, and some are really tiny, maybe have one runway, some are rather large, but Springfield's kind of right there in that sweet spot where we're the capital city. We've got the local Air Guard that uses the facilities. So talk about, I guess, the economic impact that the airport's brought to the capital city and the surrounding region.
Yeah, a fresh economic impact statement conducted by IDOT and just released this last year talks about the economic impacts of all airports and then specific airports for all the regions in the communities. And specifically, your Abraham Lincoln Capital Airport returns $370 million on an annual basis, directly affecting 2,600 jobs in the local area. So it's a significant economic driver for the community, and we can't do it without the great employees out there, the tenants, the stakeholders, all the government agencies that come together to support construction, development, and planning efforts. But it really comes down to the community. And if you take a glimpse back in time when a lot of these airports were developed right during World War II for obvious reasons and post-World War II, it is really a gem, and not to use that as our diamond anniversary, but for 75 years, the airport has been here. Yesterday, we heard remarks from United States Senator Dick Durbin was here to help us commemorate the day. Also, we had Dale Morris. He flew up yesterday morning from Dallas, Texas, to be here. Last time he was here, we actually dedicated the route to Dallas in front of the Lincoln home. Yesterday, we did it in front of the Lincoln statue out at the airport. So, very close relationship, and signifies and underscores our relationship with commercial air service. American Airlines was the first airline to fly out of the newly dubbed Capital Airport of Springfield back in 1947. We also heard from Brigadier General Dan McDonough. He's the Assistant Adjutant General for Air for the National Guard. Talked about what the airport means and the relationship means for the Illinois Air National Guard. They're also celebrating their 75 years, the United States Air Force 75-year anniversary this year as well. We also did hear remarks from our chairman of the board, Frank J. Valla, and also Andy Van Meter, the Sangamon County Board as well. So we had a great turnout with the senator, our board chairman, the Sangamon County Board chairman, the General McDonough and Dale Morris from American Airlines. We had a wonderful presentation with the Inner Veterans Burial Detail of Sangamon County posting the colors, and Gerara Caldwell of Abundant Faith Church singing the national anthem, and God Bless America was a wonderful touch, and Eric Hansen with invocation and benediction. So we had a wonderful program, wonderful turnout, and it was a great day just to signify this milestone and to mark it and reflect upon the past and really what we've been doing in recent years as well to set the stage for the next generation as well. We've had a lot of development in recent years.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what lies ahead for the future. We're talking with Mark Hanna. He is the executive director of the Abraham Lincoln Capital Airport. They're celebrating 75 years, had an event with a bunch of dignitaries yesterday to mark the occasion. And of course, in 75 years, a lot of change, a lot of evolution. It's incredible. It's not just commercial aircraft out there. It's not just Air National Guard aircraft out there. You've got even private flyers and hobbyists out there as well. Recently was able to go along with John and Chris, listeners, and they shared their passion of aviation with me. We look forward to increasing the awareness of that, especially for young people, to know the resources that are here in this community, not just at the airport, but also at the community college and the Capital Area Career Center and all of the community partners that are working together right here in our own backyard to elevate aviation as a way of the future. And it really is. Mark, talk about what lies ahead for maybe might be a bit of a crystal ball look, but what's ahead for the next 75 years?
Yeah, you said a lot right there, and I don't want to repeat because time is money right now on the air, but we have a wonderful general aviation population at the airport, and this last, during COVID, we actually dedicated and opened up a brand new renovated general aviation fixed base operator for corporate and general private operators. That's going to serve the next generation for decades to come, and we are using some of the original construction from the 1940s, 1950s. So looking ahead, commercial, general, corporate aviation, there's a lot a talk about changing technology, navigational aids, different things like that within the cockpit, and also power plants. Obviously, we've got Jet A powering a lot of these aircraft right now, but you're starting to see a lot of sustainable, different types of friendly fuels, but also electric aviation, electrified power plants and engines. So right now we have just been awarded a planning grant, and I'm the last person to want to invest a lot of dollars into paper and study. I like bricks and mortar, building and moving things forward. However, this is a very necessary project. It's a smart airports project where we're actually looking at how are we going to power the airport? Are we going to invest further into microgrids? As you've already know, we have this 2.8 megawatt system, solar on the north side of the airport. We are looking at designing and developing a microgrid. Why? Well, we want to be able to support, recruit potential manufacturers of some of these electric aircraft. We've already started some conversations with one of the major airlines in the United States that has placed orders for these electric aircraft, and we want to be one of the initial stations and actually a maintenance base for some of those. So that conversation is happening, and in order to construct the infrastructure and to seek investors and government funding to underwrite this to help us with the infrastructure, we need these studies to talk about how we are going to implement some of this, the electrification. How are we going to be able to charge those batteries in a short amount of time with the current grid and how that's all integrated? So there's a lot going on in the future, and we think that's the wave of the future, especially for initially small aircraft operations. You're looking at alternative fuels that are already talking about an alternative fuel or actually going more to a higher octane aviation or automotive gasoline to replace Hunter low-lead aircraft fuel for a smaller general aviation aircraft. So that we believe is the wave of the future. Looking at what we call a smart airport as far as how we are engaging those technologies and deploying them to support aviation.
Well, I know at the Illinois State House, they're even talking about alternative aviation fuels.
Yes.
And looking at possible tax credits that could help offset the cost and possibly even generate. I know there's some efforts in California to incentivize like bio aviation fuel, right? Very similar to biodiesel, but it's specifically for aviation, and they're developing this more and more. And there are efforts underway to possibly make Illinois a hub. Of course, they got to work out all the particulars and what kind of tax credits there could possibly be. But do you see like Springfield playing a role in that, having a lot of corn and soybean fields all over the place, and then also a municipal airport that could facilitate that as well, alongside the electrification of airports.
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly a possibility with the refineries that we see down in the St. Louis metro and Chicago area. Time will tell as far as how they will be retooled and restructured to possibly accommodate that, or will they need a totally different refining process where absolutely right here in Central Illinois we have the natural resource that's renewed every year after the harvest to potentially survive to supply the raw material for something like that. So that absolutely plays a part in that. And the more that you start to embrace some of these initiatives that you see a lot of the major airlines taking on, that's where they're going in the future, whether or not it's tomorrow or 2 years from now. That is definitely when you see those businesses that really live and die off of Wall Street and how things work, and financially, when you see them investing tens of millions of dollars in these new technologies and fuel sources, you know that they are seriously taking a look at that. And aircraft manufacturers also are taking note of that because they see where the airlines are investing dollars, and they want to be able to be in the game to be able to sell aircraft that accommodate the fuels of the technologies that they're investing in. Fly
SPI, of course, we're talking with the executive director of the Abraham Lincoln Capital Airport. It's not just the National Guard out there. It's not just the private flyers out there, but also you got commercial flights. If people want to find that flight, instead of going to St. Louis or Chicago and dealing with the traffic, and then you got to pay like $25 for parking a day.
Yeah.
I got hit with that recently. It was ridiculous. But if people want to find that alternative, they can do that through Springfield's airport.
Absolutely. All through COVID, we did not lose an airline. Certainly, we had fluctuations in our flight schedules, but even this last year, we launched new service to Phoenix Mesa. It's one of the top 5-6 metro areas in the country. So our partnership with the Legion, obviously with the hurricane down in Southwest Florida, that market for us down to Punta Gorda has been phenomenal. The community has definitely proven this market for us to be able to take that to an airline. And it's also helping us prove what we call in the business, prove the market to where we could potentially recruit, use that past history to recruit other air service low-cost carriers. Like I said before, we had an awesome, and we still have a great relationship with American Airlines and United Airlines, two of our long-standing incumbent carriers. So we're working with both of them to expand and develop their service further into Springfield. As far as United, we're looking simply just to increase the frequency to Chicago. We need more frequency to Chicago. And for Dallas, we just seen the introduction of the 65-seat CR 700. It's a larger aircraft, at least 65 seats a day flying out, or a flight flying out a day times 2 and back and forth. We have a significant increase in seats, and we also have that first class cabin option now going to Dallas for that about hour and 45-minute flight.
So obviously a lot of options and a bright future ahead. Congratulations on 75 years for the Abraham Lincoln Capital Airport. Executive Director Mark Hanna, thanks for taking time with us.
Hey, thank you, Greg, and I ask your listeners to stay tuned and keep the airport in mind, and invite you to explore and discover maybe something you don't know about the airport and its history this next year.
Well, we'll do what we can to help spread that message. It's now 7:45 on WMAY.
It's time to apply at Culver's West on Wabash. We're